Hey guys, so for this video, we're talking about ethical violations and board disciplines. So when I looked at South Carolina board cases, the most common reasons for a board to discipline a counselor was counselor-client relationship violations and extending boundaries inappropriately with clients. So some of the themes that I found looking at the common reasons for board discipline was extending those relationships inappropriately, whether with the client or friends or family of the client. So I read about a case where a counselor went to church with her client in order to better client rapport and to build up their relationship. But ultimately led to negative outcomes as the counselor started dating a member of the church. And as the counselor and client talked about this relationship, the client eventually became offended at one point, which ultimately ended the counseling relationship. So the behavior that led to this discipline, which I found that the counselor, it started with smaller incidences where the counselor thought that she was bettering the relationship and trying to, it started with good intent to build rapport with the client, but ultimately had negative outcomes. ACA Code of Ethics that were violated was Section 8.5, prohibited non-counseling roles in relationships, Section 8.5.d, friends and family members, 8.6.b, extending counseling boundaries, and 8.6.e, non-professional interactions or relationships. So the state code that was violated was section 4075 110A8 by violating the Code of Ethics adopted by the board and regulations. The state specifically references section 3619B13, which requires that professional counselors shall be accountable at all times for their behavior and must be aware that all actions and behaviors reflect on professional integrity and when inappropriate can damage the public trust in the counseling profession. To protect public confidence in the counseling profession, professional counselors shall avoid behavior that is clearly in violation of accepted moral and legal standards. So, the outcome of the board discipline was that the board said that the counselor, if she did not do a year of supervision and have 20 documented hours of this supervision, her license would have been administratively revoked and could suffer from further discipline by the board if these standards were not met. So the ACA Code of Ethics, as it relates to counselor impairment, Section C.2.G states that counselors should monitor signs of impairment and should refrain from offering services when they are impaired and should seek assistance for problems that they're experiencing as related to their counselor impairment. The South Carolina State Code, as it relates to counselor impairment, Section 4075 110, revocation, suspension, reprimand, or restriction of licensee grounds for discipline if counselor is found to lack competence to practice. So, discipline by the board can be taken if the counselor is impaired and is still providing services to clients. And Section 4075 Code of Ethics, treatment for impaired practitioners regulations, the board may promulgate regulations setting forth a code of ethics for licensees and shall establish regulations pertaining to treatment for impaired practitioners. So questions that this brings to mind for me as I read through the state board cases and also the ACA Code of Ethics was that as I work to become a counselor, I need to always stay aware of boundaries. And when I become a counselor, I should always stay aware of boundaries with clients as some relationship violations are very black and white clear, but there are gray areas such as the counselors that I read about who were trying to better their relationship but ultimately ended up suffering from negative outcomes from doing this. Um, it also makes me think that I always need to keep in mind that I always need to stay up to date on the Code of Ethics and state laws as it pertains to my behavior, and always make sure that my behaviors are ethically sound and that I'm ethically, as a counselor, I'm doing the best that I can. So thanks for watching this video.